There's a saying that every child deserves a parent, but not every parent deserves a child. That sentiment rings tragically true in this case. Mick Philpott did not see his children as vulnerable humans in need of his care. Instead, he viewed them as personal cash cows, a means to collect government benefits. His greed completely overshadowed their humanity. He was a fame-hungry narcissist, later diagnosed as a psychopath, who made life a living hell for everyone around him. This video will explore how Philpott and his accomplices took the lives of 6 young children and examine the motives behind this horrific crime. Mick Philpott was born in 1956 in Derby, England. He became notorious for fathering 17 children with multiple women. But this wasn't out of love. He possessed no nurturing qualities. In reality, he was violently abusive and unpredictable. His toxic behavior began early. At 19, he charmed 15-year-old Kim Hill. Initially, he seemed ideal, but he quickly became abusive in every way imaginable. His violence was so extreme he'd beat her in public. In one incident at a pub, he struck her across the mouth with a pool cue, leaving her severely bleeding while bystanders did nothing. He'd invent any excuse to hurt her. He once broke her arm and fractured her kneecap with a hammer for paying too much attention to a baby she was minding. As a British Army member, he'd baselessly accuse her of infidelity after postings and attack her. He even shot her in the groin with a crossbow for wearing a dress he deemed too short. Kim, still in school, often lied about her injuries to protect him. After 2 years, Kim sent him a breakup letter in July 1978. In response, Philpott went AWOL, broke into her home, and stabbed her 27 times with a 9-inch knife, telling her, "If I can't have you, no one else will." When Kim's mother intervened, he stabbed her 11 times. Both narrowly survived. Her mother, a nurse, crawled to a phone to call for help. Paramedics found Philpott on the stairs, still holding the bloody knife, claiming, "I wouldn't bother. She's a goner." Kim died twice, in the ambulance and on the operating table, but was revived. She suffered collapsed lungs and damage to her bladder, kidney, and liver. At trial, Philpott falsely claimed self-defense. He was found guilty of attempted murder and grievous bodily harm, receiving a sentence of 7.5 years. He was released after just over 3 years for good behavior, little more than a slap on the wrist. From prison, he sent Kim letters expressing remorse and even proposing marriage. The attack left her traumatized, and she still receives counseling decades later. Kim warned, "You do not say no to Mick Philpott. He doesn't understand the word." After his 1986 release, he married Pamela Lux. They had 3 children, and the abuse continued. Too afraid to report him knowing his history, Pamela hoped he'd move on. In 1993, the 37-year-old Philpott began a relationship with 14-year-old Heather Keogh. Pamela left upon discovering the affair. The teenage Heather ran away to be with him. They had 2 sons, and he was abusive toward her, even beating her for not having a girl. He taught his older sons to be violent toward her as well. When she didn't conceive again, he'd lock her outside as punishment. Heather told police he once held a knife to her throat when she tried to leave. She eventually escaped over a fence, temporarily abandoning her children, before regaining custody after a long court battle. She described him as a Jekyll and Hyde character, charming at first, then violent. In 2000, Philpott met 19-year-old Mairead Duffy, a single teenage mother who had just left an abusive relationship. He presented himself as her guardian angel. They moved in together quickly, and he proposed after the birth of their first child, Jade, in 2001. He also began a relationship with 16-year-old Lisa Willis, an orphan and single mother, who became his mistress and moved in with him and Mairead. Perhaps due to Philpott's domineering presence, Lisa and Mairead became very close, with Lisa treating Mairead's children as her own. A clear pattern emerged. All three women were vulnerable teenagers when he groomed them. Philpott married Mairead in May 2003, with Lisa as bridesmaid. From then on, he lived with both women and their 11 children in a cramped 3-bedroom council house. Both women worked while he remained unemployed, collecting their earnings and government benefits. He actively tried to have more children to increase his benefit payments. His request for a larger council house was denied due to lack of availability. Philpott publicly defended his lifestyle, expressing pride in his large family, and blaming the council for his housing situation. He argued that, as an unemployed person, he deserved more government assistance. In 2007, he appeared on The Jeremy Kyle Show to gain public sympathy. He defended his unemployment, blaming media coverage and his criminal record. He grew agitated when questioned about his parenting and job prospects, eventually making an offensive gesture at the host. On the show, he introduced both Mairead and Lisa, openly acknowledging his unconventional arrangement. He claimed he didn't care about public opinion, and even said he'd divorce Mairead to marry Lisa so she wouldn't feel left out. It was later revealed he was receiving £25,000 a year in benefits and was dubbed Britain's biggest scrounger. His plan for public support failed. That same year, he appeared in a documentary where a Conservative MP tried to help him find work. He was offered 3 jobs, but didn't show up for the first one. The documentary showed him living in a caravan in his garden, where his wife and mistress would take turns staying with him. The MP noted he used derogatory language toward both women, and that his children showed him no affection. Behind closed doors, tensions were rising. Philpott asked Mairead for a divorce 3 times so he could marry Lisa. In 2010, he received a police caution for slapping Mairead and dragging her outside by her hair. He was also abusive to Lisa, hitting her with wood, throwing hot coffee at her, and isolating her. In February 2012, Lisa finally left, telling Mairead she was taking her 5 children swimming, but instead moving in with her sister. 3 months later, Philpott, still furious and embroiled in a custody battle, devised a horrific plan with Mairead and a family friend, Paul Mosley. They planned to set fire to their home with their 6 children inside and frame Lisa. The arson was set for the day before a custody hearing. Philpott's motives were greed, more benefits in a bigger house, and a desire to appear as a heroic father who rescued his children. On May 11th, 2012 at 4 a.m., the plan went terribly wrong. The fire spread rapidly, killing 6 children: Jade, 10, John, 9, Jack, 7, Jesse, 6, Jaden, 5, and their half-brother Duane, 13. All died from smoke inhalation. Temperatures upstairs exceeded 500 degrees Celsius, leaving no chance of survival. Police confirmed it was arson, with petrol poured through the letterbox. The victims were remembered fondly. Jade was intelligent and well-regarded. John was cheerful and smiley. Jaden loved cuddles. Jack was quiet and sweet. Jesse was a lively character. Duane was a charming, caring protector to his siblings. Initially, the community defended Philpott, with one local setting up a charity for the funerals, saying he loved his kids. This showed his skill at manipulation. However, witnesses noted his strange behavior after the fire, enjoying media attention. A mortuary manager said he engaged in horseplay and even put a family liaison officer in a headlock during a visit to view the bodies.
At a police-organized press conference, Philpott thanked people for support and announced the donation of Duane's organs. His inappropriate behavior, including flirting with a female officer, raised police suspicions. Forensic evidence was key. A discarded petrol container and glove were found near the house, and petrol was detected on the clothes of Philpott, Morehead and Moseley. Police placed recording devices in their car and hotel room. The recordings captured incriminating conversations with Philpott admitting, "It's my fault we lost our children." They also recorded Morehead performing a sexual act on Moseley, which Philpott encouraged to ensure Moseley's loyalty. In police interviews, Moseley admitted to having sex with Morehead hours before the fire. Philpott also admitted to multiple sexual encounters involving his wife and Moseley after the children's deaths. On May 28, 2012, Philpott and May Reed were arrested for murder. Moseley was arrested in November. Charges were later reduced to manslaughter, as evidence showed they didn't intend to kill the children but planned to endanger them to frame Lisa for the custody battle. On April 2, 2013, all three were found guilty of manslaughter. Philpott received a life sentence with a minimum of 15 years. Morehead and Moseley each received 17 years, with a minimum of 8.5 years to serve. Morehead's appeal was denied, with judges stating her sentence reflected the immeasurable harm she caused. The sentencing judge noted the children died because Morehead put her husband first. In November 2020, Morehead was released after serving half her sentence and given a new identity. Paul Moseley was released in May 2021 but returned to prison in 2022 for breaching parole. He was released again in November 2023 after a parole board deemed him no longer a public threat. Philpott remains in prison. Psychologist Glenn Wilson described Philpott as a clinical psychopath and exhibitionist with antisocial personality disorder, a monster who abused women and exploited the welfare system, seeing children only as a source of income. What are your thoughts on this case? Were the sentences too light? Philpott's early release in the 1970s was incredibly lenient. Could these deaths have been prevented with a harsher justice system? Share your thoughts below. If you want more videos like this, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. See you in the next one.